Hey gang, welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. Today's video is part 5 in the Bronco build series. In the other videos I went over the vehicle itself. I did some paint work on the roll bar, the dash, door panels, that sort of thing. And then I addressed some other issues that I had to fix in order to make sure that the seals would fit the door openings. Now, moving forward, what I need to do is take care of a lot of other things that are relatable to the prep work for the paint job. In that instance, I have the grill, the lower filler piece that's going to go attached to the grill or be attached to the grill, and some other various pieces that I need to address and make sure they all fit right. The grill itself, as I addressed in other videos, it has a lot of tooling marks on it from the manufacturer. And there's also a little bit of fitment issue where it mates with the fenders. So I'm going to try to address some of that. Also, I want to take a look at some other pieces and parts and see if they need some special work. Now, there is some minor body work that has to take place on the body itself. Not a big deal, but I'm going to try to address some of that. The big issue I'm running into at this point in this series is having good weather. I want to be able to paint this thing, but I can't. If the temperatures are down, I can't get enough heat inside of my main shop to provide heat for the paint booth, along with airflow. It just doesn't work. So I'm going to try to take care of all the small stuff that I can and go from there, but we'll see what happens. Let me show you what I'm working on. So I've already started working on the grill itself. There were a lot of tooling marks up in this area. There is several on the side right here, a little bit out of shape as well. On the top edge here, a lot of tooling marks. I've started sanding those out as much as I can. Same thing on this side, more tooling marks. And again, on this curve, there's also some marks. And as I pointed out when I was working on this in a previous video, or demonstrating it in a previous video, there is a filler piece that goes on the bottom side right here. And that piece I'm working on as well. I have a time lapse of me sanding on this and adding filler and trying to make it smooth. But I pointed out that this curve isn't actually a curve. It's a lot of little bends. So maybe you can see the shadows of the filler where I filled in some of those low spots created by that bend process. I don't know if you can see it on the back side very well. However, the problem you run into with this is this piece doesn't line up with the grill. Actually, it'll line up with the flange if you have it all square, but it doesn't line up on the ends. So in order for this to fit like that, I have to rebend the bottom of the grill and bring it back, or make it a tighter bend, let's say, because I don't want to unbend this trim piece. I'd rather mess with the grill. I think I can have better luck with that. So you can see it there. There it is, basically flush. And I have to have it fit like that. So that'll be one of the things I have to take care of. Along with that, there's some, let's say, lack of material here in this corner. I want to build that up with some weld, regrind that. I have been grinding on this surface as well, trying to smooth up any tooling marks and try to get the curve correct on the edges. Same thing over here. I'll probably maybe add a little bit of weld to this side, but I want to verify that this is going to fit relatively flush with the front of the fenders. So things like that I'm playing with. Back here I have on the quarter panel, there's a bit of an issue where there's kind of a hump right here, so I need to work on that, because you can maybe see it if I, there you go, I can see it with the camera. If I were to leave that alone, when I paint that, that's going to stand out. Also up here I found a couple of dents. Those came with the vehicle. I didn't put those in. And also, yeah, there's some overspray from where they undercoated it. So I'll have to take care of that. So these are some of the small things I'm just trying to address. This side looks much better the way that is done. But that's what I'm working on. Also, I don't know if I'll do it in this video or not, I may pull the tailgate out of the box and get a look at it, because that will be getting paint, but also getting the spray on bed liner material on the inside. What you run into in these situations is you can't paint and do the bed liner at the same time. So basically, if I were to paint the vehicle and then come back with the bed liner, I couldn't do the tailgate on the vehicle. It's going to have to be freestanding. And also, when it comes to painting, I can't paint the hood on the vehicle. It's going to have to be off. So along with that, I'm going to have to paint the underside of the hood. So those are some of the things I'm trying to time out and make work in this process. I did work on this windshield as well. I didn't film any of this, but this rain gutter was welded on at whoever built this, and there were some issues with that, so I ended up taking this rain gutter off, reattaching it with some better welds, and so I'm much happier with that at this point. Also, the windshield, I have to prep all that inside for paint work. So anyway, this may cover just a variety of things at this point, but this is what I'm working on. All right, so after a little massaging, I've got that where I want it. Now, of course, there's going to be some gaps here. I'm not going to be able to make that up. I don't know if it intended to clamp this flange to this flange between these two. I don't know, but at this point, that's where it's going to be. I will have to press this in just a little to get the shape where I want it. Now, the hard part is going to be drilling it, because this is designed to be held on with bolts, and those bolts go through those holes. So I have to scribe where those are and then come back and take this off and then drill up through the grill. But that's not going to be too bad. I think it's going to work out just fine. So there it is, actually bolted onto the grill. Fits pretty decent. Put that over. And you can see, got all the bolts in. Only one isn't tight, and that's this one. I used free spinning nuts instead of the nylock nuts that they provided, so that I wouldn't wear those out. And yeah, I like it. So moving on to other things, as I mentioned, this quarter panel had a bunch of overspray from the bed liner material they sprayed on the underside. So I sanded that off much better now. But by doing this, I also can identify other problems. So as I'm sanding, it's kind of trivial in a sense, but you can see that the breakthrough of the EDP coating is showing where there's low spots. So in this case, when they put this quarter on, they may not have gotten it, and they may have pushed it in just a little bit here and there. And this may not show up very much, but it kind of identifies areas where it's lower on the edge than in some other areas. So I'll probably skim coat that just to make sure that's nice. Inside here, this will be addressed as well. I'm going to put a layer of filler on top of the welds to fill in any kind of voids, so that'll be addressed all at the same time. Down here, the transition from the rocker panel into the quarter, this is all still shiny, and that's because this is lower than this. If I had sanded straight across, I would have been bearing metal off back here somewhat. So I'll add some filler to reshape this somewhat and try to get it smoother overall. As I come up on top, I look, and I pointed out earlier, there's a dent here and here. You can probably see maybe see the shininess. So add some filler there. Also little spots where there may have been some flaws in the coating, some scratches, barely noticeable, but that would show up in your paint. Back here, there's some odd looking something going on there. And of course this section. Now this is these were added or welded together before they were put on the vehicle, I guess. This quarter comes separate, this comes separate. So when they put this together, you can see the shiny edge there, and where it still has the coating on the quarter. So I don't know how much I can massage this. I don't want to dig into it too bad. I'll probably add some filler to the back side here and try to smooth this out. You can still see the shiny where the sander did not make contact. So I'll scuff all that up, add some filler. I may hammer this in just a little to see if I can flatten that out, make it look better. Down here, I don't see much problem. This is still higher, this rear section, but I'm not going to add filler to that. It's fine. It's consistent. You know, it's got a nice shape overall, so I'm not going to worry about that. And you know, I'll touch up down here where I need to. I couldn't get the DA underneath very well. So anything like that you see, you want to address before you ever get your primers on. This is a little bit kind of cupped, but again, it's not worth sweating over, let's say. So these areas will get some filler and it'll get sanded and we'll go again. I do feel a little bit of still have material down here from where I didn't get the DA. That's the overspray. Hear my nail catching on that. So that's what I'm going to do. So while I'm waiting for the body filler to cure, I thought, hey, let's hang the door again and see if this works. So I put the latch in, figured out how it worked, and then I also mounted the striker. I did find some bolts that I could use to hold it in place. So I got it to line up really nice on the striker, but the problem is it won't shut. And the reason for that is one of two reasons. Either this needs to be shimmed forward a little bit, because what's happening is the latch mechanism is actually catching on this post, so it's not able to close. So either this would need to be shimmed slightly, or the door would need to be shimmed to bring it back, so bring these hinges back a little bit. But it will work. It's just going to take a little bit of adjustment. I don't know how well you can see inside of there, but that's basically what's happening. So what I'll do, I'll put some washers behind this just to move it a little bit, and then we'll do it again. So I put a couple of washers in between the plate and the striker itself. You can see that there. And did a little bit of adjustment on it, and it shuts fine. Now there are still some things that could be modified or improved upon. There's a little bit of a difference between the top of the door and the quarter, but everything else is pretty close to where it should be, and I don't see where we're gonna go crazy adjusting right now or modifying the door in any way. The hinges, they still could be shimmed slightly to help take care of some of that. It is, I think it's still barely catching the inside edge of that striker plate. So a little bit of tweaking when it finally, when it goes to final assembly, and I think it'll be fine. Now, along with taking care of these areas and this area, of course, I did add some more filler there. I'm going to sand that down, smooth it out, be good to go. I am working on the grill, as I mentioned, and I may have shown in the previous video, I didn't like the way these corners were. They were kind of rounded off, like not enough material. So I welded those up and reshaped them. I like the way that looks a lot better for an end result. And I'm not going to do anything to this surface. I'm not going to add any more material. I don't want to get too carried away with that sort of thing. We're not looking for a zero gap. However, as I'm mocking up the fenders and comparing the fitment between the grill and the fender, I noticed some things, and it's really small, but they're details. There were some pieces of metal here from where it was assembled that were pushed up, and that was making contact with the mating face on the grill. So I just took a hammer and block and knocked those down, and as I'm doing that, my goal is to test fit everything before paint, obviously. And I want to make sure that these pieces interact the way they should, and I noticed like this excess material here. So it may be small, but when it comes to assembly, stuff like that can cause a problem. Even a little bit there. These aren't bad. That's the way it should look. That's the way it should look. So I'm going to clean that up. I'm just going to take a rotary file and clean that hole up just so I have enough room just in case I need to move the bolt around at assembly time. So I got these corners built up and blended back the way I like them. Both sides look good. Transition corners, all that looks good. I set the fender up against this, and I realized there was about 1/8 of an inch gap on this corner. So I welded it up and then ground it back. It's much better now. Still not a perfect gap, but it's not enough to be probably noticed. So I don't think that side was as bad, but I will double check that as well. As far as the body work, well, I have this transition, very nice now. All of this all the way up. Those vents are taken care of. That oddity that was there, you still see it actually. Just barely make out a circle right there in the middle. And then this. Much happier with how this looks. I ended up adding a little bit of filler on this side, and I think it's going to look really good. Of course, this will all get primered and block sanded to make sure everything's right, but I'm pretty happy with the results so far. Well, that's going to be it for this video. I've covered a few different things, welding up the grill, addressing the door latch, working on the quarter panel, taking care of some body work, and that's how it's going to be for now. Trying to get these little things ready so that when it does come to get primer on and that sort of thing, I can do it all at once. So these videos may be short like this one. I don't know how long this one actually is, and just cover a variety of topics. So anyway, I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. If you would, leave a thumbs up and a comment. And I want to make sure that I thank my patrons who support me on a monthly basis. They help keep me going, keep me motivated, and help me put videos on YouTube. If you're interested in becoming a patron, there is a link in the description below. It's up to you. It would be nice. But anyway, thanks for watching, and until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.